Hello and welcome back to Becoming Her, Fitter, Better, and Stronger Over 40. I'm your host and coach, Shauna. I am 46, a wife, a boy mom, and a fitness and nutrition coach, helping women over 40 become their best. Today's an episode that I'm really excited for because I'm joined by an amazing woman by the name of Samantha Peters, who is a podcast host, an author, a speaker, and the co-founder of Light Up Your Life. She helps people overcome generational traumas and step into the best version of themselves. And I know a lot of us are on a transformational journey, and a lot of times our mindset can be our biggest hurdle. We have limiting beliefs, old stories that hold us back. And Sam is going to share with you her amazing insights on how you can let go of that old story and step into the new one so you can become that best version of you, become her. So grab a coffee, get cozy, and let's dive right in. Samantha, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here. I know you're going to have so many valuable things to share with our listeners, and thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and it was amazing having you as a guest on our podcast.
Agreed. I had a great time, and I was happy to have you join me here today. Like I said, I know you're going to have amazing things to share with our audience. First things first, I want to share a little bit more about you, if you don't mind. I would love for you to share a little bit of your backstory, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then tell us, when did you realize that your story could actually help inspire others?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So much to unpack there, but kind of everything in a nutshell. I grew up in a really toxic home environment. My father was an alcoholic, very emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically abusive. And so it was constantly walking on eggshells. Unfortunately, my mother wasn't strong enough to walk away from the relationship. So it taught me that, men can treat me a certain way and it's completely fine. And so I feel like it wasn't until high school when I would go over my friends' houses and see how their parents would interact. Well, I'm like, wow, this is completely different than the way that I live and the way that I grew up. And there could be a loving, supportive, unconditional family. And so I think it wasn't until college where I really started diving deep into mindset work and realizing that, and this is a crazy study just for your listener. So Bruce Lipton, who did a research study at Stanford University, found that 95% of our subconscious mind is created by the age of 18. So that means our routines, our patterns, our behaviors, everything that we think is stored directly in our subconscious. So there's so much programming and conditioning by our caregivers and what we see in our environment that shapes us. So many adults are walking through their adulthood with all of these limiting beliefs that were projected onto them by the people that surrounded them. And it wasn't until I started realizing that your brain has neuroplasticity, meaning it has the ability to change and you can have different thoughts. You can create a different reality for yourself. So I started, I got my master's. I was in education for a long time. I got a bunch of brain-based certifications. And so every single thought that I started to have, I questioned it. I'm like, where did this belief come from? And so much of it came from my father and my parents. And so I had to unbecome all of these things to really step into my true divine power today. And so for anyone listening to this, it's really asking yourself, okay, where did this belief come from? And every time you have a negative thought pattern, replace it with a more empowering belief. As you keep doing that, you're going to create new neural pathways in your brain to start thinking in a more positive way. So yeah, it was really diving deep into personal development, reading, hiring coaches, and realizing that you create your own reality by your thoughts. And so that's kind of everything in a nutshell. But yeah.
Love that. And I agree 100%. I think mindset can really make or break everything that you're trying to achieve in your life. And sometimes we don't even realize that some of those beliefs are, not true stories. We think that they're true, but they, when you start to challenge them and you start to empower yourself, like you said, with a new story, you can unlock so many different things in your life. I know I've witnessed that. I know you have too. And part of the reason we share this is because we want to help other women do the same and not necessarily keep themselves stuck in a place where they don't have to be. I know that mindset is huge, and it's something that you talk about and share a ton on, especially with what we've dealt with, the traumas that we may have had or the upbringing that we might have had. For the women listening, what are some signs that their past patterns might be showing up in their lives and kind of holding them back?
I mean, there's so many. For me, it was feeling unworthy, stepping into relationships or at a job interview. Your past has a lot to do with the way that you think about yourself, your mindset. So even fear, right? A lot of times people let fear hold them back, and fear is just something that's made up in your mind based on the past of what you've been through. So it's really cool. I had so many questions of stepping into my power and not thinking that I was valuable enough to share my story and to become everything that I truly wanted to be. So for anyone who has hesitations, you're feeling shy, you're afraid to step into your power and share your story. I feel like those were really big signs for me. Just holding myself back, and until I realized that, my story can help just one person. And if that's the case, then I want to share what I've been through to help change other women's lives. So it's really just that hesitation I felt, and then not feeling confident. And the way that you build confidence, and I have an ebook on this for your listeners, but it's keeping the promises you make to yourself every day. So there would be so many times in my life where I said I would wake up and go to the gym, or I would eat healthy, and I wouldn't follow those promises. And every time you do that, you lose trust with yourself. And so in order to gain credibility, in order to gain trust with other people, first you have to trust yourself and you have to believe in you. So it was all of those realizations for me that I am worthy, that I can step into my power, I can make a difference. And it's first showing up for me before I can show up for anyone else.
I love that. If you think about it, if you had anyone else in your life that would make promises to you and then not follow through on them, it would make for a really tough relationship to have. And we don't understand that that's the same with ourselves. Like that when we start to really honor the things that we're saying that we're going to do for ourselves, that's where true confidence comes from. It's not from the accolades. It's not from weight loss. It's not from getting fit. It's from you following through on the things that you say you're going to do for yourself. And it starts to develop this inner strength that carries through to every other facet of your life. So I absolutely love that. And when you were talking about starting to challenge the limiting beliefs that you have, a lot of times what I talk to my clients about and talk to women about is looking for proof that it is possible. Because a lot of times you can't see it for yourself and you tell yourself the story that something isn't possible for you. But one thing that I did, and I encourage the clients I work with to do, is to look for proof. Like when I turned 40, I had just had my son, and those were two things that I was told for forever were going to change my body in a really negative way, like getting older, having kids, it's just going to change everything. So instead of holding on to that story, I said, well, no, that's not going to be my truth. And I looked for women who were fit, healthy, thriving with, children over 40, and I found them. And I just said to myself, if they can do it, why can't I? And I think inviting that story into my mind just empowered me to look for ways of how I could do it. And then it's just that matter of putting that into practice, like getting those habits into place. And like you said, showing up and doing the things that I said I would for myself. And that's how it seems simple. It seems like it's too easy to totally transform your life, but it can be super transformative when you invite that different story into your mind.
Yeah, two things I want to unpack there, because I love when you shared that on the podcast. That was one thing I really, really resonated so deeply with. But if someone else can do it and you can look up to them and you have belief that they can do it because they are, you can kind of borrow some of that belief. And if they can do it, so can you. And then two, it's also just, like you said, surrounding yourself with people who have what you want. And the biggest thing for me is they've been where I am. Okay. So a lot of times people look up to someone who is really wealthy, who is doing so many incredible things, but they don't have the same backstory. And so I think it's really, really powerful to connect with people who are doing it and who you can look up to and sort of borrow that belief from them. And I always ask myself too, when I'm stepping into my higher self, how would so-and-so react to this situation? Or how would they feel about this? Or what would they do? And it just brings me back to center, and it just helps you up level and think in such a different way. But I do think it's so imperative to, it's everything of who you surround yourself with and what you listen to. And it doesn't have to be a physical person. You could be listening to this podcast or my podcast or anyone else, and get really close to their beliefs and their thoughts.
Right. And then you can start to visualize like that best version of yourself. And instead of maybe mirroring someone else's confidence or their actions, you start to ask yourself, what would that version of myself do? What would that highest version of myself do? How would she act in this moment? And then you live that out and you keep doing that. And then eventually you become that person, that woman. And it's really cool. It's a really cool process. Many women listening are navigating reinvention maybe later in life. So what advice do you have for anyone who feels like it might be too late to change?
Yeah, that's such an amazing question. And I got really excited about what you were just talking about, because it is really stepping into that power, that feeling. And so in my manifestation journal that I published, there's one prompt that says, visualize your future self and write as if it already happened. So every single day I do this. I mean, I just manifested so many amazing things in my life and so many of the people that I work with, but it's writing it down as if it already happened and feeling those feelings. So I write exactly what I want my future to look like, because a lot of people don't realize that you create your reality based on your beliefs, right? So the physical manifestation happens after you think about it. And people have that reverse. A lot of people think that, whatever comes at them in their physical reality, that's what they react to, not realizing that you create it previously with your thoughts and your beliefs and what you do in your routine. So anyone listening to this, I would journal out what you want your future self to look like. And there's a really powerful ChatGPT prompt that you can use. And it's essentially just saying, based on what you know about me and my future self, write a day in the life and put your goals that you want to accomplish. Write a day in the life of what this person would do if they've achieved these goals. And then it comes up with this beautiful manifesto for you to read every day. And so I've done that for years now. And then also, if you don't know where to start, you can ask it to create a schedule for you. So every single day at 6:30 in the morning, you meditate, you journal, you do gratitude, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, it will give you a blueprint. So for anyone struggling, I think that's a really great way to just start.
Yeah, because your mind is a garden, and if you keep allowing weeds to grow, you're never going to experience like all the beauty that you have within. So you have to be really specific, like, especially in the morning. I feel like when you're just starting your day, you want to fill yourself with empowering things, and it doesn't have to be anything grandiose. So, I'm a busy mom. I know you're busy too. So this long drawn out morning routine sometimes feels out of touch for people who are juggling so much, but even just like 10 minutes. I take 10 minutes every single morning, no matter what. If I can do longer, I will. But it's filling my mind with faith. And that's what I connect with. I know people can use gratitude, like you said, meditation, whatever connects with your soul. But when I listen to scripture and I read scripture and then I spend some time praying and really talking to God, I am filled with just such positivity and hope. And going back to the idea of faith and fear, those are the same thing, but you're just believing a different outcome. When you're fearing something, you're believing a negative outcome. And when you have faith, you're believing the opposite, the positive outcome. So you just have to practice that and stay diligent in doing that. And then that becomes who you are. It's almost like confirmation bias. Like when you believe positive things are going to happen for you, you start to recognize all of the beautiful things in your life and all the positive things that happen. It's almost like when you are shopping for a car and you decide, okay, I'm going to get a white, I don't know, Acura RDX. And then you start to see them everywhere, because it's what you're now telling yourself to notice. So it can be really transformative to just start your day with that positive action, fill your brain with hope and positivity, and that will just carry through to the rest of your day.
Yeah, I love that. And I think another thing that will help your audience too is, what magical thing is going to happen to me today? What exciting, unexpected thing? Because that's where you need to be, in the unknown. So many people like structure and And I think that's important to have routines, but also just letting go and believing and having faith that everything is truly happening for your good. I think that's the most magical place to be, because then it's not like you're in this fixed bubble, like, okay, I'm doing this today, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing my gratitude. It opens you for so many miracles as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just think the more that you can do that, the more you can just start to get stronger in your faith and in that mindset of good things will happen to me, the more empowered you're going to feel and just confident to stay steadfast on your journey. And speaking of journey, so for those who are listening, who are on, a lot of my listeners are on a health and fitness journey, the mental side of things is as challenging or the most challenging part of that journey. So how can healing their inner story really help with the consistency of that transformation for them? And, or how is it going to be holding them back if they don't necessarily tackle that?
Yeah. So, I mean, your thoughts and the trauma that you went through gets stored in your body. So, if you are not trying to heal yourself, it's going to stay rooted. And I know so many people. My mother is going through autoimmune disease, and I know so many diseases are created because your body is acidic and you're not healing from the inside out. And so, what I would say to your audience is just realizing that the pain and the struggles that you went through are your purpose. I
Mm.
truly feel that you are most qualified to serve the person you once were. So, those challenges and those struggles and those things that you went through qualifies you to step into your power and to help other people. And I had to realize that, I went through a really tough upbringing, but it's made me so much more resilient. It's made me dive deep into all of the work and the research that I've done and the people that I'm able to help. And so I think if you think of it from a different perspective of not why is this happening to me, but how can I use my struggles and what I've been through to help empower myself and then empower other people. So it's definitely the lens that you look through, because for so
Yeah.
much of my life, I was a victim of my circumstance. And why don't I have parents who love me or who support me, who want to see me grow into this beautiful woman? And, unfortunately, I didn't have that, but it made me so much more resilient. It made me look within and realize that I can create anything that I want, and I'm here to make a really big difference. So your struggles only make you stronger at the end of the day.
They do. And like you said, I mean, instead of saying like, why is this happening to me? I think a nice reframe for that too is like, what is this teaching me? You know,
Yes.
there's there's valuable lessons to be learned in every situation, whether it's a positive or a negative. So again, when we're looking at like if you're on a fitness journey, or if you're on a journey with your mental health or your business, seeing obstacles as opportunities instead of, barriers, where, okay, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? How can I help someone else through this experience? Just again puts you in that place of your power, where you're not letting your circumstance make you a victim. You are being empowered in that place, because life is always going to throw different things at you, but it's how you respond to that will determine what you'll get out of that, and then how the rest of your life will go.
Absolutely. And we're a mirror to every situation that we've been through. So I like to see the things that are triggering me and ask myself, why are they triggering me? And it's always an unhealed part of me that I'm still learning and I'm growing through. So a lot of times people react to those things and they really get upset. But you're right. Everything is there to teach you, to make you stronger, and to grow and to evolve into a better version of yourself. And one thing I do want to mention too, I know going through starting my own business, starting the podcast, doing a bunch of speaking engagements, I had so many questions. I questioned myself and where I was going. But one of my mentors taught me that every single decision that you make is the right decision because you make it that way. And so
Mhm.
I think your audience and whoever's listening to this needs to be firm. Okay, I'm making this decision. It's going to work out beautifully for me. So I think that was another big mindset shift that I had to make in realizing that your decisions ultimately create who you are, but it's always for the good, whatever path that you do go ahead and choose.
I agree. I mean, whatever you decide is going to offer you a lesson and experience and something that you can take with you in the future. And I know you've created lots of different resources, journals, and other things to help people rewire their subconscious. Can you share one or two simple tools or exercises that someone could use if they are recognizing that some of their beliefs are holding them back?
Yeah, so I published a manifestation journal and I'll definitely send you a copy, Shauna. But I've journaled so much in my life and I took little parts of each of the journals that has really helped me. And so in my journal, the first thing is being grateful, listing 3 things you're grateful for, because I truly believe if you're not grateful for what you have, how can you expect God to give you more if
Mm,
you are just so ungrateful for the life that you're truly living? So bringing yourself back to, okay, I'm so lucky to be able to be alive right now and breathing and living this life, because there's so many people they're less fortunate than we are. So I think gratitude has been huge for me. And
mhm.
then also affirmations, right? Looking in the mirror, writing down, I am abundant. I am helping so many people achieve their dreams. I am so fit. I am, high energy. I'm abundant. Writing that down, because as you keep doing that, it's reprogramming your subconscious mind to have those beliefs about yourself instead of the red light stories that you probably grew up with. So those are the 2 tools that have really helped me. But then also, it's what I mentioned before, that journal prompt of, okay, journaling as if it already happened and feeling those feelings and getting excited to really
Yeah.
step into that power. So I would definitely say those were the main things that have really helped shift my focus and my mindset.
Yeah, I love gratitude is so important because, that saying like what you focus on expands is so true. So you want to focus on those things that you're grateful for, because then you're only going to get more of those in your life. And to your point about affirmations, and be looking in the mirror, I think a lot of us are used to looking in the mirror and being so critical.
Mm,
But when you can start to look beyond like the flesh, like look at the woman that's there, look at the body that's carried you through all of these years and it
mm,
has never left your side. You can start to look at yourself a little bit more tenderly, and it's kind of an emotional thing. But I talk to a lot of my clients too, to talk to themselves like they're talking to their 8-year-old version of themselves. Like, you would never tear her apart like you do now. And then thinking about making that 8-year-old you proud, and then also that 80-year-old you proud. So 8-year-old you was full of hope and dreams, and had all of these goals and things that she wanted to do with her life. And then 80-year-old you is thinking about like how grateful she was to have all of those years. We're in a beautiful place right now where we still have, God willing, so much time left. So make that 8-year-old version of yourself proud, and also that 80-year-old version of yourself proud.
Yeah, I think all those are great points. And one thing that I had to do is when I was looking in the mirror, looking at that younger version of myself and knowing that I'm now an adult that would protect that younger version and be there
Yeah.
for them. And I think that is so powerful when you can sit there and say that. And then I also think it's great to have that perspective of, okay, how am I going to feel when I'm at 80? Am I going to regret things and decisions that I didn't make? I feel like a lot of us are so comfortable, right? That's how our brain wants to keep us in survival mode.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you're going to have, yeah, you're going to have so many regrets if you don't go for it or choose the life that you ultimately want to live. And so I think those 2 places, 8 years old and 80, I think that's a great perspective to have a lens to look through.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw it on a social media post, but I thought it was just a beautiful way to, like you said, have that perspective. Okay, what did 8-year-old me think about life, and how can I bring that energy into my days? And then also, like, how can I remember to stay present? Because 80-year-old me would want me to do that. 80-year-old me would not want me talking down to myself or talking myself out of opportunities. Like, she wishes she has the time and the opportunity
Mhm.
that I have gifted to me right now. So it's realizing what a beautiful gift that is and not taking it for granted.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I love this. I love this conversation. It's such
Me
a
too.
valuable one. And you know what's cool? You and I have known each other for, I don't know how many years now. It's
Probably
been,
like 4, maybe 4 or
yeah,
5 years. It's been a while.
it's been a while. And so it was probably like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where you and I were at an event together and we were talking about what we both wanted for the future, and we were both living out exactly what we were chatting about then. So it's a
Mhm.
nice full circle moment, I think, and also evidence of what you put out there, the story you start to tell yourself, can be what becomes if you just start believing it and then living that out.
That's so true. I remember that conversation clear
Yeah.
as day, how you were pivoting and, starting your coaching and doing all of that. And it's so magical. And I think it's really important to have friends like you in my life because you're not just saying it, you're actually taking action and you're doing it. I find a lot of people will say things, but they don't follow through. And that's how you build confidence. That's how you build a community. That's how you build so much resilience, is when you're speaking your goals to people who are actually living out their goals and their dreams as well. So
Yeah,
so grateful for
surrounding
you.
yourself. Yeah, it's amazing. It's so fun. But I think it's important to surround yourself with people who share that same belief and that power.
Mhm.
And even in even on your algorithm, like I tell a lot of my clients to be
Mhm.
careful what you're consuming, because it will absolutely impact how you think, how you act, and what your days look like.
Yeah, it has everything to do with that. Your energy, the law of attraction. If you're surrounding yourself with negative people and they're saying all of these excuses as to why you can't, you're going to be brought down to that energy. And so every single time I'm with someone, I'm evaluating, okay, is my energy raised? Am I thinking more abundantly? Am I thinking, okay, what are the possibilities that I can create for myself? Or are they bringing me back down to an old version of me that I've, kind of healed from and I've moved out of that? So, yeah, I think your circle is everything.
Yeah. And on the same note there, when I first started my fitness journey initially, and I think this can be said for a lot of people, you just have like you have an aesthetic goal, and you just say, okay, well, I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to start eating a certain way to look a certain way. But as you evolve and as you get deeper into the journey of becoming your best self, becoming her, I think you also start to recognize what fills you up, like what is helping you become that best version, and then what is like holding you back, like what habits are going to help you and what habits are going to hurt you. And you start to self audit. Now it's not for me like what foods are good or what foods are bad, or I have to exercise. It's like I'm doing the things that I know are helping me become my best, and it's creating this love story with my body, with my mind, with my soul. Like it's a nice reframe to where years ago I was in the gym or dieting because I hated my reflection. Unfortunately, you will never hate yourself into a version that you love. And after having my son, I realized I was going to be the example he saw of what self care, self love looked like. And I knew that my own relationship with myself had to heal. And that invited me to take a brand new direction and approach with becoming my best. And now all of these things I do because I want to look and feel my best. But it's not because I want to punish myself. It's because I want to love myself. And when you do that, it just cultivates such a beautiful connection to all of these things.
Yeah, I think it's definitely focusing on the feeling after. And I remember having a coaching session with Jay Shetty. This was probably 6 years ago at this point, and I'll never forget what he said. He's like, think about, going to the gym, how you're going to feel after that. Think about if you're eating a salad, how are you going to feel? How much energy are you going to have? Or vice versa, right? If you don't go to the gym or you're starting to eat unhealthy, how are you going to feel? And so every decision that I make, and I'm not perfect at it, but I like to think ahead, okay, how am I going to feel after this? How am I going to feel after this encounter, after this podcast episode, after stepping into the best version of myself and doing the things I say I'm going to do? How am I going to feel? You're going to feel so empowered. You're going to feel so uplifted, and you're going to be so much happier and so proud of yourself. So I think asking that question is so imperative.
That's great. I love that because it really invites you to be excited
Mhm.
versus afraid. Because
Yeah. Oh, I love
anxiety and
that.
excitement are almost the same energy. You're just having a different expectation of what the outcome is going to be. So if you can do the reframe of like, okay, if I do this, how am I going to feel? And you start to
Mhm.
imagine all of the wonderful things that you'll feel, then it creates an excitement versus an anxiety about it.
Yes, and actually you're right about that. It triggers the same part of your brain whether you're excited or you're anxious or you're nervous, it's the same thing. It's only what you tell yourself, right?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know. The brain is so powerful. I mean, I don't even think we realize how powerful it is. I think we discredit how powerful our mindset is on our journey. In fact, it's a conversation I have a lot with women, and they think once they have the right diet and once they have the right workout plan, everything's going to fall into place. And that's not always the case if your mindset is holding you back. And it's such an important part of the journey to becoming your best, because it's not just about what you look like, what you weigh. It really is an inside out job. You change the inside first, and then that transformation is just going to inevitably show up.
Yeah. It's like planting a seed too. I remember this analogy of like you wouldn't dig it up the next day to see
Yeah.
if it was sprouting. And so that's the same thing with your life. That's the same thing with becoming the best version of you, is letting yourself blossom. And it takes time. People want instant gratification and want it to happen right away. But the joy really is in the journey, and it's waking up every single day and choosing to be happy. It's choosing to step into that version and becoming.
Right. So beautifully said. Beautifully said. I always say this too. The only way you'll fail is if you quit.
Yes.
So if you keep going, if you keep pushing, if you see challenges as opportunities, start, showing, just pouring that belief into yourself and continuing to show up, keeping the promises that you made to yourself, you're going to keep climbing. You're going to keep climbing. You're going to reach that peak and be so thankful that you just kept going.
Yeah.
No matter how long it took, it's always going to be worth it.
That's such a great point. There's so many times where I'm like questioning, is this worth it? But the work that we've put in for years and years, it has to pay off, So I think if you hold that mindset, then you're ultimately going to be successful.
Yeah. And I mean, there's tons of times, just to be candid, along my journey, like when I started working out after my son was born, I was weak, I was tired, didn't have a lot of time. My body was definitely different than I had before. And there were times where I was like exhausted and nothing was changing. I was doing all the things, but it wasn't changing fast enough for me. And I would always ask myself, like, okay, I know the outcome if I quit. If I quit, I stay where I am. Nothing changes. Is that what I want? And my answer was always no. So you have to keep pushing. And on the other side of that, if you keep going, something inevitably will come out of that. It's going to be maybe on a timeline that's different than you want, but it's better to be on your way towards reaching your goals than wishing you had started or wishing you had stuck with it.
Yeah. That was beautiful too. And I think there was a reel that I saw, and it showed, it was a river, but the top of it was frozen. And it was saying like, you don't see anything happening in the physical, but there's so much on the back end, like your mindset and underneath that's still moving and it's still growing. So yeah. And you also have to just believe in divine timing. There's so many points in my life where like, I wanted this to happen right away, but it's all meant to be. It's all divinely orchestrated. And I also think when you have that belief too, it makes things so much more meaningful, right? Because I feel like back then I wouldn't have been able to accept the life that I have now. You have to go through those challenges. You have to build that foundational piece in order for you to be able to accept the blessings in your life. So it's all divinely orchestrated.
Agreed. That redirection, you don't always understand, but it could be God's protection. But looking back on your journey, Sam, what's one message that you really want our listeners to take away from today's conversation?
I love this question. Yes. And it's, you don't have to be defined by your circumstances in the past and what you went through. You could absolutely change your life by your thoughts, by just starting today, right? Starting one thing. And I tell people all the time that, a lot of people want to change their life overnight. Just stick with one thing, stick with one goal and accomplish that, and then move on. So it's really knowing that you create your own reality. You can become the best version of yourself. It's just one day at a time. And it's giving yourself grace and compassion and knowing that, you're here to do really incredible things in this world. You're here to do God's work. You're here to make an impact, and every single one of us has such a unique purpose, and we're here to live it, and we're here to just create our dream life. So that's what I would tell anyone listening to this, that you can become her, just like your podcast name.
Yeah. Use your pain and turn it into a purpose. Like it's absolutely possible. So I love that message. I think it's such a beautiful message and one that I know people need to hear. Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you if they want more of your beautiful message and all of the value you have to share?
Thank you. So you can connect with me on Instagram. It's my entire full name, Samantha Lynn Peters. And then my website is lightupyourlife.org. We have our podcast there. We have our coaching. We have a bunch of educational resources as well. So thank you so much. It was such an incredible conversation. And I already feel so uplifted.
Me too. I hope I hope we can do this again. I'm so excited that we got to chat again. This was amazing, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank Sam so much for joining the show. I hope that you really took a lot of value away from everything that she had to share, and I hope you're walking away feeling as empowered and motivated and inspired as I am. Please know it is never too late to change your story, and Sam and I will be here to remind you of just that. If you want to connect more with Sam, I will leave all of her information in the show notes, as well as her free journals that you can start to use so that you can become that best version of you. Thank you so much for joining today's episode. If it was valuable, if you enjoyed it, I would be so thankful and grateful if you left a rating or a review. It just helps the show grow and reach more women like you who need to hear it. Until next week, keep getting stronger and keep becoming her.